That's something that I want to mention is this is a journey. This isn't like you just get spiritually awakened and, oh, I'm woke. No, you're not woke. We continue to awaken until you've like reached samadhi, which is ultimate enlightenment, which is what monks strive for. You know, it doesn't happen like that. It's a journey. Hello there, beautiful soul. I wanted to come on here and I wanted to talk about my spiritual awakening journey, because honestly, I feel like what we're about to talk about in this video was part of my Saturn return, and it was like 4 years where it was like I felt like I lived different lives. I swear, you know, like not like a past life, but like I've lived like 4 different lives just in those last 4 years. So I wanted to honestly document this for myself and also kind of get vulnerable and share my story with you and offer it up, because who knows, maybe you'll learn something from this, or you can take away, or maybe we can just bond over it. So I'm going to try my best to put all these events that I'm going to talk about in chronological order. But like I said, it is kind of dense, so please forgive me if I need to refer over to my notes over here. I also have some things that I want to like read, so I'm going to be reading those off of my iPad. So yeah, if you're ready, let's just hop into it. So just as a quick disclaimer here, I just want to ask that whoever's watching this, just practice sensitivity. This is my spiritual journey, and I am not saying that this is the only way to get a spiritual awakening or process this. I'm just sharing my experience and what I went through, and I'm actually being quite vulnerable in that. So I just ask that everyone who's watching this practice sensitivity when you watch this. And if anything's like agitating you, because I will be talking about some trigger things, such as topics about religion and my opinion about that. I will be talking about my diet choice, veganism, and my strong viewpoints as to why I went vegan. I'm also going to be talking about aliens and mythological things, so there are some triggering things in this video, and if that at all bothers you, or you're not ready to hear that and you think, you know, it doesn't resonate with you, then I just encourage you to click off this video and go ahead and watch something that would give you more joy. I don't want to be putting anyone in a lower state of energy. So I just want to start by giving a little bit of my background. I feel like I have always been spiritual, to be honest with you. I don't know if I can say as far back as birth, but I can say, you know, from age of 3 years old. My parents were very, very religious, at least my mother was, and she went to church every Sunday, and from the age of 3, I was in the church nursery. Even at that age, I questioned a lot about religion and what they were telling us and talking about. I was always just, even at the age of 3, I was questioning things, and it's really simple stuff. So don't here, listen to the story so I can explain it, because it's like, no, I wasn't like going off on a tangent at the age of 3. So for instance, like I was in the church nursery, and I remember this so clearly because it really upset me. And we all get this coloring page, and it has Jesus on it. And they only have so many crayons. And so the crayons that were offered were certain colors, but everyone was going for these peach crayons or the yellow crayons and like coloring it in lightly. So they were all like coloring in their Jesus kind of like white or peach, or some of you even just left it blank. And I did not do that. I grabbed the blue crayon because I thought blue was pretty, and so I made Jesus's skin blue. And this chick was like telling me that I couldn't do that. She was like, "Oh no, honey, you can't color your Jesus blue. What are you doing?" And I said, "That's the color I want my Jesus to be. My Jesus is blue." And she was like, "Why don't you just wait your turn for one of the other color crayons?" And I was like, "No, I want my Jesus to be this color." And I pouted and just stopped coloring altogether. I was like, you know what, if I can't do it the way that I want, then That's how I was as a kid. I was really stubborn. And in your face about it too. I made some adults cry. It was really sad. I was kind of a very strong-willed child. Not kind of, I really was. She even talked to my mom about it, trying to get me in trouble. And my mom just never said anything. She just figured that I wanted to color. So even at that age, I was questioning the church. And as I got older, it only got worse. In junior high, I just wasn't really always agreeing with the pastor's interpretation of what the passage said, or, just some of the things that they were referencing, it didn't add up and it seemed to really contradict. And then I had these questions, and they almost felt like they couldn't talk to me about it because I was too young. It was really obnoxious. Then when I get into high school and I'm going to the high school church, I got so pissed off, you guys, because like I said, I just was always spiritual. So I really loved Christianity. I loved my faith. I liked reading my Bible. I liked being in prayer. I really did. I liked it, and I liked to participate in it. So then I get to the high school stage of it, and I don't really agree with how they're doing it, and it really weirded me out that they wanted us to speak out the scripture all together, and I felt like that was a really powerful energy, and I didn't always feel like it was being put into context as I would agree with, so I didn't really speak it out. On top of that, I got really, really ticked because here I am, I took my faith pretty seriously. I loved it. And then the pastor of the high school gets up and tells us that we should be like Matthew over here. And Matthew is the perfect example of a good Christian. And they were saying, it's because of this and this and this, and they're just kind of praising him. And I was like, what the F is this about? Do you know what Matthew was doing Saturday night? He was snorting cocaine and screwing this one girl in the bathroom. Is that really what the congregation is supposed to be like? So it was just so hypocritical, and I did not like the fact that I saw that. And the whole reason is because Matthew's parents ended up making a huge donation towards the high school ministry. So that's why they were praising him. And I didn't realize that until later, mind you. But just the fact that I knew what he was doing because I was at that party. We were all at that party, but, not all of us were doing drugs and having sex in the bathroom, but that's who they chose to call out. And of course, they didn't know that was going on, but it was just so hypocritical. So I actually ended up walking away from the church. I just told my mom after high school. She made me try the college, and then that was worse. And so I didn't want to go and do that. So I just took a few years off from not going to church, and I really loved it. I loved just reading my Bible and praying and having my own connection with God. But my mom would constantly harass me to go and find a new church. Well, I didn't find a new church that I loved until I moved to Hawaii. And then I found a church that I actually really fell in love with. I resonated. I felt like there was so much white light in that church, so much love and support. So I really fell in love with the church, and I was like, hey, I love this church. I'm going to get involved. So I got very active and involved in the church. I worked in the children's ministry, working in the nursery with kids. And then I would just go, I would go every Sunday to church, and then I would do the Bible studies, and then if they offered special women's group studies, I would go to that. They had women's camp where you go away, on the North Shore. I went to that. I really just tried to get very connected because I wanted to be rooted in the church, and I wanted to meet more people, so I tried to attend every event that they hosted and even volunteered to help out in them. So I really, really did get involved, and I thought that this was going to bring me a ton of friends and a lot of fulfillment, but I actually ended up being quite disappointed in the end. So about 3 years into going to that church, I was currently married, and my husband and I were having a lot of issues. He was emotionally and physically abusing me, and I had it. We had gone through so many different counselors at this time, and so I decided to involve the church since I knew so many of the people at this point now. So I knew who to talk to. So I talked to the women's pastor, because I thought that she would be the it would be more vulnerable, not more vulnerable, it would make my husband at the time feel safer that it was a woman rather than a man. So we went to her, and I just told her, I didn't tell her about the physical abuse at the time, but I told her about, some of the emotional aspects that were happening, and she prayed over us. Then we went to that church for counseling, and we talked to their counselor that they provided. And they also saw, like, horrendous things from him. Like, they were saying, you can't treat your wife this way, and you can't hit her, and they definitely were calling him out, and so therefore he no longer wanted to go. So we stopped going to counseling, and then soon after that, I felt like my life was in danger. I felt very scared, and I asked if the church could help me in any way to separate from him, because I was scared. This is someone who's really trying to control my life, and who has really tried to separate me from having any connections with anyone, so I don't have any safety net, and then he's doing these horrific things to me, and I was scared if I'm going to come at him and say, hey, I want a divorce, what he's going to do. And so I was fearful, and so I wanted some help, but the church, they had nothing set up for this. They were not prepared to help women in these situations. So instead, I decided to go to the military, and they provided an advocate for me, and they recommended what I should do, and so I went along with the advocate, and I got a restraining order, and then I got a divorce. So trying to keep that as light as possible, because those are really dense times, you guys, and I'm not trying to minimize that in my life. I'm just really trying to keep this focus as to what shook my awakening. I went through a lot of traumatic events that really woke me up, and so let me continue on with the story. So I'm going in the process of getting a divorce. I put a restraining order on him, and he hasn't even respected the restraining order. He has been stalking me, and he's been having other people watch me, just really creepy stuff. So I tell the church I still want to attend women's ministry, and I still want to be able to work at the church. But the women's ministry, they meet right after the men's. And so all the men come out, and then the women go in. And I know he's going to be there. And so I asked them, can you help me get in the back or somehow avoid him? And they weren't even helpful in that. It was so sad. And I guess what had happened is they kind of sided with him, because I guess he had gone to someone and told them that I was leaving him for his money, and I had cheated on him. And so they weren't really interested in helping me. And that was really sad, because it was like I was the one working in the church, because I had the time. I was only working a part-time job, and so I had the time to volunteer, and I loved doing it. And so it's like I felt like, they should know me better than to take his word, especially when I had come to the woman's pastor and told her, can you please pray over us because these things are happening? So they had an inkling. I went to them and asked for help, and so they knew that, and yet in the end they were just dismissive. I want to start going into now a bit of the story of how I started to separate from the church and really began my spiritual journey. Right before this, like I said, I was going through a divorce, and then my Saturn return happened. And it was like I was in the shadow of the Saturn return, and then it actually hit, because I was just so off of my path, my purpose, and what I was supposed to do. And I was deeply depressed, and obviously I was in a horrendous relationship, and so I just need a sip of water. So my Saturn return really shook me up to realign me with my purpose and my correct path, which I'm thankful for, but man, was it traumatic. So I'm sitting in church one day, and the pastor is talking about how, sometimes God puts something on our heart, and it can feel so big that you can feel kind of fearful of ever doing anything about it, and so you might ignore it. And he was saying, I want you to come up to me if God places something on your heart that you feel this church is missing or needs, or just something you want to tell me that he placed on your heart. I want you to come up to me after service and talk to me about it. And right at that moment, I was like told, I was like, yeah, well, you guys don't have any measures to protect women in abusive relationships. And most churches do. They usually have, they usually set aside from the tithing, they set aside a certain amount so that they can pay for women and children who are in abusive situations, so they can pay for them to get out of that situation, to get into a hotel. They usually provide them with an advocate. They offer free counseling through the church, and they just pretty much set them up on the protocols on, you know, here's what you can do next. You know, you can, your advocate usually will help you say like, okay, we can get you a free attorney, a pro bono attorney if you need that. And here's what they're going to go over. Here's what's going to happen in the court system, and really just walk you through all that. And they had nothing aligned like that, and most churches do. So I decided to go out to my pastor, and I was like, hey, pastor, I'm not going to name names here. I said, hey, pastor, you know, just like you said in service, something got really laid on my heart, and I want to talk to you about it. Do you have a moment? And he's like, yeah, tell me about it. And I said, yeah, I would really love it if we could set up a ministry here about how to help women who have been in abusive situations, how to get them out of that, and even if they aren't ready to get out of it, offering some counseling to them. And he was very nervous looking, like I didn't realize I had brought up such a controversial topic. And he was like, I think that you better talk to Pastor Ernie about that. And I said, well, no. I said, well, no, that wouldn't really fit, because I'm wanting to help women and children who are in abusive situations, and Pastor he deals with drug rehab and people that are recovering from that. And that mostly is men in his group. So I don't think that that would really align. And so he said, okay, well, why don't you talk to our women's pastor, and she'll tell you when you can set up like an appointment with me, and we can have a chat about it. And I said, okay, great. So she says to call me the next day on Monday to set up an appointment. When I do, no one answers the phone. I leave a message. They don't call me back, so I call them back. It was just constant like delay of stuff. I finally get a hold of her, and she just gets really like pissed at me, like very like aggressive. And she's like, he's really busy. He has so much going on right now. And maybe that's why she was so aggressive. Maybe that's true. There was a lot going on. So I was like, okay. So I just decided to like put together like a whole kind of like folder on like protocols that we could set up, and not in like a confrontational way, but just like, so I was prepared to like be able to say like, hey, this is what we can recommend. This is how we can keep it discreet. This is, you know, when we need to do this or this or this. I really was trying to get organized and set up, because I thought that they'd be very interested in it. And they just ended up dodging me all the time. And so it wasn't until I actually confronted the woman's pastor to be like, hey, it's been a month. Like, I have this whole thing planned out. I would really love to meet with you guys and see what you think about this. And she told me, in all honesty, it's very controversial for our church. We mostly have military and she said Native Hawaiians at our church, and that culture comes with abuse. And she said, so we could lose a lot of members of our church if we were to provide a program like that. So we just can't even think about it. I was disturbed. I was disturbed that they were more concerned about their following and their numbers, meaning their tithe, the money that they receive, rather than helping a group of people that there were probably many people in that church, many women that really could have used this. And I was shocked and I was disturbed, but at the same time, this was the church that I loved, and I'd already been going there for 6 years. So I decided to just accept it, and I continued going. And funny enough, a week later, they decide to do this fast, and they said you can participate in this fast, and there's different levels to this fast. You can do it for 14 days, or you can do it for the 28-day challenge. And they said, you know, you can either take one thing out of your diet or skip a meal, or you can do this one fast, or you can do the extreme, which is the all liquid fast. And I am just that personality type, you guys, that it's like, if I'm going to commit to something, we're going all out. Balls to the walls. I'm probably going to cut that out. Oh, maybe I should leave it. But yeah, I do. I'm just like, let's just do it, and let's do it to the fullest. I just kind of love doing that. So of course I was like, yes, I'm doing this. I've never done something like this before. I've done like a juice cleanse for like 10 days, but I've never done something for 28 days. So I was like, yes, let's do it. Mind you, this was when I was going through my neck injury. I had a horrible neck injury from my abusive relationships. And so I couldn't move my neck, you guys. I couldn't lift it up at all. It was so painful. And I couldn't rotate it side to side. I could somewhat bring it down to about like here. But if I stretched it any further down, I would feel just this horrible pain into my shoulders. So I was going through some healing of that. And so they had put me on this, crazy pain medication that made me feel like shit in the first place. But you have to take it with food. So I just decided, okay, I'm going to do the cleanse, and I'm mostly going to do juices, so I'm getting some kind of nourishment as I'm doing this, fresh pressed juice. And on top of that, if I feel like I'm in a lot of pain, I'll eat a few crackers, and then I'll take just like a partial of that painkiller, and if that still doesn't do it, we can take the other half, and just kind of work it that way so I wouldn't get sick or, be too hard on my body. So I decided to do this cleanse, and it's going really well. I mean, it's always like a struggle, but I think like after the first week for me, I was like, okay, this is routine. I was just drinking a lot of liquid. But I start to get like so much more clarity and insight. Like stuff was really, really coming through for me. At the same time, I was kind of going through this huge falling away. I had not only gotten this injury that my doctor told me you can no longer work, which I was a makeup artist at the time, and I was actually doing really, really well. I did enjoy a lot of it. I did get very upset about how many women I came across who didn't like the way that they looked at all and wanted me to like completely give them like a new face, which was, and this is the time when the Kardashians got really popular, and the very heavy contour and highlighting and manipulation of the face was very in style. That was when it was first getting its trend, and that just broke my heart that so many women wanted to look like someone else. And I was actually getting husbands at weddings telling me, like, I'd be like, hey, so in the consultation, I'd be like, if there's one thing that I can do that would really like make your wife like super sexy, what would it be? They always said the sweetest thing. They said, just please make her recognizable. I want her to look like her when she's walking down the aisle. I want to be able to see her. And then some of these women would want to look like totally different people. So that's a part of the industry that I really didn't like and didn't resonate with. But then as I'm being told by my doctor you can't work anymore, so I'm staying at home and I'm missing working, and I'm watching all these videos about cosmetology, and I end up during this fast finding these videos about how toxic the products are and the horrendous things they put in these products. Not only that, the mass pollution that they provide, that they even have given women cancer and like bacterial infections and all this crazy shit, you guys. And I was like, oh Jesus, I do not want to be associated with this. Maybe this is a good time to do some self-reflection and really just take this as a sign that, you know, I worked that career and it's time to do something else now. So I wanted to read this entry from my journal that I was writing about. I wrote this just a few years ago, reflecting on that time, and I just wanted to share it with you. I feel deeply that this last year, there was something inside that wanted to be discovered. I couldn't put my finger on it. I just woke up feeling really ticked, like many things were off, and not only in my life, but the world. I officially was fed up with my profession, trying to make something work that totally conflicted with my true self. I let it go. That's the short version of me letting go of a 15-year business I built. This led me to really do deeper self-reflection than before. What do I do now? What do I really want? What's my purpose in life? Who am I? Okay. So I really started to question, like, who am I? What is my authenticity? Yes, I had done this career, but it no longer aligns with me now that I've had these revelations. Like, I cannot go back from here. This is something I can't return to now. So what am I gonna do next? So I just decided to just do this season of self-discovery. I can't work. I'm having to be on pain medication most of the time. So, I mean, not only that, I can't move my neck. So I'm not driving anywhere. I have plenty of time on my hands. I'm not volunteering anymore. And I'm doing this fast. So I just went all into research and asking a bunch of questions. And one of my concerns was I wanted, like I said in that note, is that I wanted my healing to be amplified. So I looked up ways how to amplify healing, and it's very interesting because this thing just popped into my universe as I was looking. I'm telling you, that cleanse, that juice cleanse, it was bringing in just so much clarity. It was like so easy for the universe to just like send me messages through so many ways. It was insane. Like I would just like, you'd be like, I'll go on YouTube real quick, and all of a sudden there'd be this video, and I'd be like, that's exactly what my question was last night. Is someone listening to me? Yes, the universe is listening to you. Your guides and angels are listening to you, and then they send you messages. It can be through email, it can be through a blog. Anyways, maybe I'll make that a different video, but I was getting all these messages, and one thing that I came across was a high vibrational diet, and how a high vibrational diet can lead to a lot of healing, and it'll also help with inflammation in the body. I need more water. So I looked into what are high vibrational foods. Well, high vibrational foods were all foods that are alive and come from the earth, such as carrots, fruits, legumes, beans, things like such as this that get their nourishment from source energy, the sun, first of all. And and they even had, it was so crazy, these videos I was watching, they even had like scans of what, meat would look like under this lighting, and what the vegetable would look like under this lighting. And this lighting detected how much life was in, like how much, I don't know how to put it, like living energy that was actually in these different things. And the beef was, like dead, obviously, and the carrot was just like lit up. It was beautiful. So even those scans were like beautiful to look at, and I would just like, I kept looking into, so I was like, okay, so what's a plant-based diet? What's this all about? So then I start looking into a plant-based diet and what all that entails. And then of course these videos come across my being, like My Choice, Cowspiracy, What the Health. All these different videos started popping up into my field, and I started watching them. And after that, it was like the beauty industry. There's no turning back after I've seen this now, because I saw how the animals were being treated. And I also I watched some other videos that were about like these guys did this video, I think it was on YouTube, living on $1 a day. And it just shows the consequences of the decisions that we make today in our country and how they affect third world countries. And after that, I just decided I don't want to be a part of this. I want to live my life more simply, and I want to really I want to be healthier for me. And in that choice to be healthier for me, I'm also going to be giving back to the planet and the animals, and hopefully making good conscious decisions in this reality so that my footprint isn't so big and that I'm not affecting someone else in a totally different universe, country, city, town, what have you. And so then I started to question. I was like, how does this relate to Christianity and my faith? And how come we aren't, as Christians, how come we aren't vegetarians, seeing as how we're supposed to protect animals, right? And so I started looking up in the Bible, like, where does it say we're allowed to eat meat? And I mean, it does say that. It does say we're allowed to. But if you actually do research on what our bodies actually are made for, they're not made to consume as much meat as we do today. And at the rate that we're producing this meat, it's absolutely ridiculous, and most of it gets thrown away. And for what? I mean, you're traumatizing these animals. So I was noticing this, and I wanted to see how it reflected to the Bible. And I wrote this really interesting diary entry that I wanted to share with you, that I just thought really sums it up very well on how I felt in regards to never going back to eating meat again, and how this tied to my spirituality, and how I really care about the earth, and how I want to give back, and how, I just can't stand, I love animals, so I couldn't be a part of this anymore. And I didn't have that realization before, because just keep in mind, you guys, my family are ranchers, and my brother, he is a beef rancher, so he runs cattle and distributes beef. So I grew up with our own beef, grass-fed, and it's really clean, but still, that's not good enough. That's not good enough with how commercialized that is now and how big it's getting. It's still causing pollution, and it still causes problems and inflammation in the body. So anyways, I just want to read this note here. When I saw how all these animals are being bred and raised to be slaughtered and may not die while being slaughtered, but also will live a sad, confined life, I don't wish that on any being. How could I, as a follower of Christ, see this? What is being done to provide for the demand of the meat and dairy, this genocide of animals, and just turn a blind eye? We are told by the Lord that we have dominion over animals to protect them from harm. We are their shepherds, their nurturers, their aiders and healers. I asked myself the age-old question, WWJD, what would Jesus do? He wouldn't partake in it. He would abstain from all animal products, especially how unclean they are killed spiritually. I mean, we are eating tortured beings, and we're ingesting their suffering. I mean, for real, Jesus is Lord, so he might just smite all those and release the animals. But I do not have that divine power. I can only do what is in my grasp currently, so I did it. This led me down a crazy and fun to talk about path, being plant-based. Okay, so yeah, I know that that's kind of like a gnarly in-your-face message, you guys, but that's really that was what my realization was. And it's interesting because as I was going through this, I had just, after I went through this, I just decided I'm going plant-based, and I went cold turkey. I wasn't oh, I'm gonna finish all this stuff in my fridge that I can't eat. No, I donated a lot of it, and then the rest I just emptied out. I was like, I'm not gonna eat this anymore. One night I did have kind of a splurge, and I ate just, stuff so I wouldn't waste so much stuff, but it wasn't I was hurting my body with it. And then I was I went to the grocery store, and I followed, I don't know if you guys know her, I'm gonna give her a shout out, Earth Andy. She was on the island, and so I wanted to keep everything local, and she was the only girl on Instagram at the time that I followed who was plant-based, and she lived on the island. So I decided to follow some of her recipes, went to the grocery store, got myself some vegan food to make for myself, and just started the diet right away. And it's interesting that in that note, I talk about how Jesus would not partake in eating any of the meat that we are creating in the beef industry, because in the meat industry, because it is not killed clean spiritually. So if you do look in the Bible, they took their killing of an animal very seriously. Think Avatar. Okay.
Nati kameya matsmukan. Otenalu seyi ilai. alu huewa. Salea taweo. The okian. Sluna hafi hapi.
Many religions, they will pray over their killing and make sure that it's a clean kill. Even if they're going to ingest that, but they're also like giving so much gratitude and thanks and saying it's all because of our Lord, our Creator. It was just done very clean and spiritually and in gratitude, but also forgiveness for having to kill another being, because that is God's creation. So the fact that it just conflicted with my standpoint on how I feel spiritually and within my faith to continue to eat animals. And my mom hated the fact that I was mentioning this because she's Christian and she does not agree with this point, and she makes it very clear to the point where she didn't want me to talk about this topic. And that's what I'm talking about, is like, this is a vulnerability, because for years she just wanted me to tell people that it was because I would just do better on that diet. But the truth is that there's a lot of factors that go into the reason that I went vegan and plant-based. And this religious, spiritual part of me, not religious, but the spiritual aspect of me and this love for animals, and to really take my impact, like we all individually have an impact and a ripple effect, and I took that seriously. And so I don't agree with it. I feel like it's genocide. We're butchering a bunch of animals, and sometimes they don't even get killed the first time, and so they live their whole entire life in confinement and sadness, and then they don't even get a clean kill, and then people are ingesting in that. And it's like, look at our country, look at how sick we all are. Like, this is part of the problem. That's the thing, is for me, I'm not just a vegan and that makes me care for only animals. I care about the human race quite a lot, and we're doing damage to our planet and ourselves by contributing in this. And it's so sick, you guys, because some of the pharmaceutical companies, they coincide with the meat industry. Did you know that most of the antibiotics that are sold from pharmaceutical companies go to the meat and dairy industry, because they pump their animals full of antibiotics, because the way that they raise them, it'll make you sick. I'm sure you guys know this. I'm just saying that this is a massive genocide that has a huge rippling effect, and it even extends out far past our country into the Amazon, destroying trees, destroying villages, destroying people's lives, and causing other people in other worlds to starve because of our massive greed for meat. It's like, it's gluttonous, to be honest, because there are people in other countries starving. And it's not fair for us to say that we don't have anything to do with that, because we do. Because our country bought their land that they can no longer farm now for their own self and their own family, but now they farm it for the US cows. You know what I'm saying? So it's a big topic, and I know that this could be triggering, but this was my viewpoint on why I went plant-based. And I gotta say, as soon as I went plant-based, whoo, Lordy, everything changed. A lot of shifts happened. Holy crap. Just so much more clarity came through. I was doing even more research. I was looking into, I was doing meditations, affirmations. I got into the world of law of attraction, learning about that. String theory. Oh, that was so sick. And quantum physics. I really just tapped into this research, and I just absorbed it as much as I could. And anything that didn't resonate, I just said wasn't for me, and stuff that resonated, I was like, wow, this is amazing, I'm gonna go further in. And it was interesting that when I did change my diet, I felt so amazing. I felt so much more energy. My inflammation had gone down. I felt a lot more healing, and honestly, my subconscious mind was healing, because I had issues with diet and eating. I had eating issues where I would go through maybe not eating as much and withholding from eating. So kind of anorexia, but then I would end up like maybe having one day where I just ate a bunch of stuff, and then I would purge it, and then I would go back to like kind of eating. It's just whenever I ate, because I was gluten-free, I mostly was ingesting meats, I just felt so lethargic. And I think that on a subconscious level, I knew that this was wrong. I knew why this was wrong to eat meat and why I was so misaligned with myself. But of course my consciousness didn't. So it wasn't until this veil got lifted that I realized, wow, like so when I went plant-based, I was like, I don't feel guilty about eating anything. I feel so great, and I feel healthy, and I feel like this is amazing. Like it just gave me so much joy, and my food was so colorful. Oh my gosh. I mean, I would pair veggies with my steak, but it was like, white, and then you have your steak, which is gray or brown, with red in the middle, but I'm talking about on top, and then you have some green asparagus. But oh my gosh, when you go vegan, you have purples, you have reds, you have oranges, you have yellows, you have yellow, purple, orange potatoes and carrots, and then there's all these different colors of cabbage. Like, my world got so much more creative with my food, and that made it a lot more fun, and it provided so much healing, and I really did see a big difference. Then I also started, I did like yoga before this, but I just took like a few classes, and it was mostly Bikram style. So when I went, and I couldn't do Bikram anymore because it's a set sequence and it caused strain on my neck, and Bikram teachers, they weren't experienced in any other yoga, so they didn't know how to provide any adaptability. So it made me feel like worse about myself, so I decided to stop going. And they were nice enough to give me credit, so if I wanted to come back, I had already paid for like that full month. They said, you could come back and use this later. But I never went back. And in fact, I'm gonna give a shout out right now because I found Miss Beautiful Juliana from Boho Beautiful. And it was so healing for me to, as I'm feeling completely crippled from my neck and I can't go anywhere, she took me around the world and we did yoga together. And she does provide different modifications. Usually, it's beginner, intermediate, into advanced. So I did have to look up some other modifications, but she really tapped me into the healing of yoga, and I started to heal myself with her through adapting my yoga and integrating her routines into it and just doing it daily, constantly. And then I also found Iyengar yoga, and that was very adaptive yoga, and this provided a lot of stretching and healing for me. And then it blew me out of the water, Iyengar yoga, because I was able to do my first supported headstand after a neck injury, and that's when I decided I have to be a yoga teacher. Yoga and plant-based healed my neck, along with my personal trainer I hired to be my physical therapist. That combo healed my neck, and it was amazing, and I was like, I have to bring this healing to others, and that began that journey of that yoga teacher. So everything just exploded. I started to get all this research into who we are as beings and how we connect to aliens, and how, and star seeds, and more about crystals and chakras and meditations. And I found this beautiful podcast, Find Your Own Magic, where I really found my tribe, where I felt at home. So I never felt alone after I found that tribe. I could ask any weird, spiritual, esoteric, out there question, and I had a family that would love and accept me for it, because something that started to happen to me as I went through this clarity, going plant-based and bringing in yoga, meditation, affirmations, using crystals. I was doing these things and they were working so well for me, and they were bringing amazing healing emotionally, physically, and for my soul. I was getting to know myself. I felt so much closer to the divine than I ever had before. And I started to ask, well, but this is like, so much of what I'm doing is what the church does not want you to do. And in fact, they may call it satanic. And so I started to get fearful that my family and friends would no longer accept and love me because of my differences now and my disagreements that I have with organized religion. And that was definitely, it's a struggle. It's still a struggle to this day. It gets better and better, but still, yeah, they were not happy about it. And it was very hard for them to understand and accept where I'm coming from. And that's okay. But that was something I had to decide. I got this, and this, like I said, you guys, this was over a span of 4 years that these events happened. It's a lot of time to go by. And that's something that I want to mention is this is a journey. This isn't like you just get spiritually awakened and, oh, I'm woke. No, you're not woke. We continue to awaken until you've reached samadhi, which is ultimate enlightenment, which is what monks strive for. It doesn't happen like that. It's a journey. You go through life and things trigger you and shadow work comes up and you have to work on that shadow work. So that's why I mentioned this 4-year process and how I really led to wanting to create these videos and what led me to being a yoga teacher also, and what kind of led me to this path. And there was a season where it was just really questioning me, what are your beliefs? You need to this is your life. This is your life. You're an adult now. You can say what your own beliefs and values are. You get to decide what are they. And so I just really dove into studying religion, Christianity, the Bible, how this reflected with other religions. It was like I was going to seminary school, but on my own. And I was just diving into it and asking all these questions and, learning about the first Bible ever created, the Sumerian Bible, and noticing all the extraterrestrial activity that exists within the Bible, and just questioning who was the author of the Bible and who was this written for, and just getting all this information that ultimately led me to decide that I no longer want to be associated with organized religion, and I am a spiritual being and I choose spirituality. And therefore, I believe that you can reach your enlightenment through any way possible. You can be an atheist and you can reach enlightenment. You can be in any religion, and I guarantee that you will be led back to you'll be led to a spiritual awakening. You will find yourself and you will connect closer to the divine. I believe that it can happen through any way, and it may not be for everyone's season of life. I like to look into a lot of things about myself, and so I am Sagittarius, Scorpio, and Pisces, and that is it's very spiritual, to be honest. It's very connected to esoteric. I just want to learn all about it, and that's my journey. I really love spirituality. I love self-development and making myself better for me and for others. I love to be a healing light for others. That's just my journey. That doesn't mean that it's for everyone. So maybe you're not, so some people may not even go through their, into a spiritual way because that just doesn't really ring true with them. But that doesn't mean that they don't love to do meditation or yoga, or tap into little facets of it. We're all at different journeys and different stages, and there's no judgment, acceptance all around. And where do I want to go to next? So yeah, and then after I decided that I no longer was going to put any more energy towards going to the church or I know that for instance my mother, she wanted me to continue to okay, you've decided to be spiritual, that's cute, okay, now let's go to church. And I was like, no, I want to really be true and authentic to myself. I read that book, The 4 Agreements, and one of those is it's about authenticity, and you guys should read the book. I'm going to link it below because I could go off on a tangent on that book and how beautiful it is. But I just felt when I fully connected with that and was okay, we're just going to be authentic. This is who we are. I felt it felt magical, you guys. It felt like things were just flowing. So I had that connection and things would just like come through for me, and I would, ask a question, and then all of a sudden the answer would be given to me the next day in some message. It just felt like everything flowed together like super beautifully, and I was really getting to know myself and providing love for others, and getting just more clarity on my authenticity and defining who I am. And that was also part of my emotional healing journey, and really learning to love and accept myself, and establishing proper boundaries and honoring myself to create more self-worth. And then I started creating that Skillshare video because I had gone through that process, and so I wanted to help others. I wanted to help them in any way that I could, so I decided to teach this class on how that you can elevate your vibration and bring in that clarity through self-love and elevating your worth. So I just want to share, to end this video, I want to share a quote with you that really stuck with me when I was going through this process of really questioning, like, oh, is this right? Like, am I really not religious? Like, are we sure we want to let this belief go? Like, people aren't going to accept us. This is going to be a lot different from the people that are around us. Like, I might lose a lot of friends over this. Are we sure we want to let this go? And so I kept looking into more and more and more, and I was like, oh, this is just not in alignment. It's just not in alignment. It's not going to work. We got to let it go. And I stumbled upon this quote that really helped me let it go, because we're all connected. It all goes together. But this is the contrast, I would say. Religion is worshiping the kettle, and spirituality is drinking the tea. Mic drop. At least that's how I felt when I read it. So you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this little docu-series on Miss Anne and her first taste of spiritual awakening. And obviously this is just a little bit about it, but I don't want to make too long of videos because I don't even know if anyone will watch this whole thing. I definitely will, probably in the future sometime, but I still wanted to create it and share with you, and I hope that maybe something helps you. You can always also leave a comment below if you resonate with something and you have questions and you're wanting some advice, or wanting to have some guidance because something you related to something that I said, and we can be there for each other, be the light for each other, and send each other guidance and love. So I look forward to seeing you in a next video. I do spiritual conversations like this, all about spiritual tools and law of attraction videos, journaling, self-love, and I also do affirmations, guided meditations, and of course, yoga classes, baby. So I hope to see you in one of those next videos, and sending you blessings and all my love and light. Namaste.